Snow fell thick and heavy over the sleeping city. Behind a small grocery store where the lights flickered weakly against the cold, a little girl, no older than 7, was digging through the dumpster. Her bare fingers were red and cracked, her breath a trembling mist in the frozen air. Each handful of snow and soggy cardboard sent another shiver up her tiny arms. She searched for something, anything to eat, before the frost stole the feeling from her hands. Before we go any further, take a breath with me. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from tonight? If your heart has ever felt cold or forgotten, you're not alone here. Sometimes we all need a reminder that kindness still exists, even in the cruelest storm. If your heart feels heavy, may this story bring you a little light. Now, let's begin. A door slammed open behind her. The store manager stepped out, his face twisted in disgust. "Didn't I tell you to stay away from here?" he barked, kicking the bin closed. The sudden noise startled her. Her small fingers slipped and a silver necklace slid from her neck, disappearing into the heap of frozen garbage. It was the last thing her mother had given her before she died. The man grabbed a bucket of slush and hurled it at her. "Go, get out of here, filthy rat!" The icy mix splashed across her shoulders. She gasped, clutching her chest where the necklace had been. The door slammed shut, leaving her alone again in the howling snow. She knelt beside the dumpster, digging through the frost until she saw a glimmer of silver half buried beneath the trash. Her tears froze before they could fall. All she wanted was that necklace, one small piece of warmth in a world that no longer remembered her name. A black sedan slowed on the snow-covered road. Its headlights pierced through the swirling flakes, landing on the child kneeling in the white haze. The driver hesitated, then stopped. A tall man stepped out, snowflakes melting on his dark coat. He watched the girl tremble, clutching a broken necklace to her chest. Something in his eyes shifted pain recognition, something old and fragile breaking free. He took off his coat, knelt beside her, and draped it gently over her shoulders. The girl flinched. "Please," she whispered. "I'll leave. I promise." The man's voice was soft, steady, certain. "Not tonight," he said. "You're safe now." The snow kept falling silent, endless and pure, but for the first time that winter, the cold no longer felt cruel. The next morning, the city was still buried in white. Snow blanketed the sidewalks, muffling every sound except the soft hum of a car heater. The little girl sat quietly in the passenger seat, wrapped in a thick blanket far too big for her. Steam rose from the cup of hot cocoa she held in both hands, though her fingers still trembled. The man behind the wheel glanced at her every so often. His name was Ethan Reed, 41, a self-made millionaire whose life had been measured in profits and silence. Last night's image, the child in the dumpster, the necklace clutched in her frostbitten fingers, wouldn't leave his mind. It had struck something buried deep, something he hadn't dared to feel for years. He cleared his throat. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl looked up, hesitant. "Lila," she whispered. "I'm 7. Her voice was small, almost lost under the sound of the heater. Ethan nodded slowly. "Where's your home, Lila?" She stared out the window. The snowflakes outside seemed safer than the question. After a moment she murmured, "It used to be that blue house near the church, but they told me not to come back." He waited, letting the silence speak for her. Finally, she continued, her voice barely a breath. "After Mommy died, my dad married another lady. She said I looked like bad luck. Daddy stopped talking to me. One night, they left me outside. Said someone would come for me. Her eyes flickered down to the necklace now resting on her lap. This was Mommy's. She said, "As long as I keep it, I'll never be lost." Ethan looked away, his jaw tightening. The ache in his chest returned sharp and familiar, the kind he had carried since losing his own daughter 5 years ago. That same necklace glint, that same trembling voice in the dark. He remembered the last night in the hospital, how his little girl Emily had held his finger and whispered, "Daddy, don't let go." He hadn't, but the machines had. He had spent every cent, called every doctor, and still. She slipped away. Since then, wealth meant nothing but another layer of cold walls. A snowplow roared past, shaking him from the memory. He glanced back at Lila, whose eyelids were heavy from exhaustion. Her head rested against the window, her breath fogging the glass. When the car stopped at a small diner, she woke with a start. Ethan smiled gently. "Come on, let's get you something warm." Inside, the smell of coffee and baked bread filled the air. Lila hesitated at the door, afraid to step on the clean tiles. "It's okay," Ethan said softly. "You belong here too." She sat across from him, eyes wide as the waitress placed a plate of pancakes in front of her. Her small hands gripped the fork awkwardly, as if afraid it might be taken away. Ethan watched in silence. Every bite she took, every small sigh of relief, it all felt like watching his daughter breathe again. Outside, snow kept falling. But inside the diner, for the first time in years, Ethan felt warmth that money could never buy. The snowstorm had quieted by the time they reached Ethan's house on the outskirts of the city. A tall iron gate opened slowly, revealing a mansion surrounded by frost-coated pines. Lila pressed her forehead to the car window, eyes widening. She had never seen a house so big, nor one that looked so sad. Every light inside was dim, as if afraid to disturb the silence. Victor, the grey-haired driver, glanced at Ethan through the mirror. "Sir, are you sure?" Ethan's voice was low. "Yes. Bring her in." When they entered, the air was still carrying the faint scent of wood and dust. Portraits hung on the walls. One of them showed a smiling little girl with bright eyes. Lila stopped to look at it. "She looks happy," she whispered. Ethan's throat tightened. "She was," he said quietly. Her name was Emily. He hadn't spoken his daughter's name aloud in years. The sound of it felt strange, like reopening a door sealed too long. He walked ahead, leading Lila to a guest room near the fireplace. The warmth made her blink fast. She had almost forgotten what warmth felt like. Victor brought a small tray, hot soup bread, a cup of milk. Lila hesitated before touching anything. "You can eat," Ethan said softly. "No one will take it from you." Her eyes lifted to his, unsure whether to believe him. "People always say," that she murmured, "and then they change." The words landed like a stone in his chest. He knelt beside her, meeting her gaze squarely. "I can't change the world, Lila," he said, voice trembling with honesty. "But I can promise you this: no one will ever hurt you here." For a long moment, neither spoke. The fire crackled softly, melting the silence between them. Then Lila reached into her pocket and pulled out the necklace. The silver heart was scratched and cold, but still gleamed faintly in the light. "Mommy said this means I'm never alone," she whispered. Ethan's hand trembled as he touched it. "She was right," he said. "You're not." She smiled faintly, a fragile, almost forgotten gesture. Outside, snow fell quietly against the window panes. Inside, for the first time in years, Ethan felt something thaw deep within him. The fire burned steady, reflecting in their eyes two souls who had both survived the storm. Far across town, another fire burned, but not one of warmth. In a lavish living room lined with mirrors and gold, Vanessa Carter swirled red wine in a crystal glass. Outside, snow piled against the windows, but inside her smile was cold as the frost. Robert Carter, Lila's father, sat slumped on the couch, eyes hollow from too much whiskey and too little sleep. Once a proud business owner, he now looked like a man who'd bartered his soul for silence. Vanessa leaned against the piano, her silk robe glowing in the firelight. So she said, voice smooth as poison, the little rat didn't come back last night. Robert's eyes twitched. She's just a child, Vanessa. Vanessa laughed softly, tilting her head. A child, she repeated. Robert, that girl is nothing but a shadow of your dead wife. Every time you look at her, you see the past, and I'm tired of living with ghosts. She placed her glass down sharply. You wanted peace, didn't you? Well, now you have it. No crying, no questions, no little face begging for love you can't give. Robert pressed his palms to his temples. You don't understand, she's my daughter. Vanessa's smile hardened. Not anymore. The fireplace crackled. The air grew thick. On the table lay a set of papers, legal documents half signed. Vanessa slid them toward him. If you finish signing, the house will be in our name, clean and uncontested. But if she ever shows up again, if anyone connects her to you, everything will fall apart. Robert stared at the pen. His hand shook. I can't do this. Vanessa leaned in, her perfume sharp and suffocating. You already did, she whispered. Her tone shifted silk, turning to ice. She's out there now, Robert. Maybe someone found her, maybe they didn't. Either way, our life begins when she disappears. The doorbell rang. Vanessa straightened, fixing her robe before opening the door. A man stepped in, tall, thin, wearing a grey coat dusted with snow. Mrs. Carter, he greeted smoothly. Luis Ortega. I came with the files you requested. Vanessa gestured to the table. Good. Make sure no record of that girl exists. No birth certificate, no insurance, nothing. Ortega's lips curved slightly. That will cost you extra. She smiled. Then double it. Behind her, Robert sank deeper into his chair, the crackle of the fire sounding like judgment. He looked at his trembling hands, once strong, now stained by silence. Outside, the snowstorm howled, as if the world itself were mourning a child forgotten. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a fire burned softly inside Ethan's mansion. Lila slept curled beside the hearth, her necklace resting against her chest. Ethan sat nearby, unable to look away. He didn't know the truth yet, that the storm had only begun, and that the woman who cast this child into the cold was already plotting to erase her from existence. Snow still blanketed the city when Lila woke up the next morning. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows of Ethan's study, turning the frost on the glass into tiny rivers of gold. For a moment, she didn't move. It felt strange to wake up warm to hear silence that didn't carry shouting. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet sinking into the soft rug. On the fireplace mantel stood a silver-framed photo, a man, a woman, and a little girl, with sunlight in her hair. Lila stared at it. She's pretty, she whispered. Ethan looked up from his desk. She was my daughter, he said softly. Her name was Emily. Lila turned toward him. She looks happy. She was. Ethan murmured, before her heart got sick. He smiled faintly, though his eyes betrayed the ache behind it. Then he noticed the locket glinting against Lila's chest. "That necklace," he said, nodding. "May I see it?" Lila hesitated, but stepped closer. "It's all I have left from my mum," she said. "She said there's something important inside, but it's stuck." Ethan took the locket carefully, his fingers brushing the engraved initials on the back AC. He frowned. "Your mother's name, Amelia Carter," Lila answered. Ethan froze. "Carter?" Yes, she nodded innocently. "That was Daddy's name too." Something shifted inside him like gears locking into place. He reached for a small toolkit on his desk, the same one he used to fix his late daughter's toys. With a gentle twist, the locket clicked open. A folded piece of paper slid into his palm. Inside was a bank key taped to a faded note in a woman's delicate handwriting. "If anything happens to me, this key will protect Lila. The truth is, in box 247 Heritage Bank." Amelia Ethan's pulse quickened. "Heritage Bank," he murmured. "That's downtown." He looked up, his eyes sharper now. "Lila, do you know what this means?" She shook her head. "Only that Mommy said it would help me when I'm scared." He closed the locket gently and placed it back in her small hands. "Then we'll see what your mother wanted you to find." That afternoon, snow turned to a thin drizzle as Ethan's car pulled up in front of Heritage Bank. Lila sat quietly beside him, clutching the locket to her chest. Victor accompanied them, holding an umbrella, as they entered the marble lobby. The banker hesitated at first security protocol's identification, but one look at Ethan's face silenced the objections. Within minutes, a steel deposit box was placed on the table. Ethan opened it, his heart pounding. Inside lay a manila envelope sealed and marked "For my daughter." He unfolded the documents slowly, insurance papers, property deeds, medical records. Then tucked beneath them a USB drive and a small cassette tape. He inserted the USB into his laptop. The screen filled with photographs, Lila's mother, Amelia, bruised and thin-dated just weeks before her death. Alongside them were emails between Vanessa Carter and a lawyer named Luz Ortega discussing falsified documents, insurance transfers, and a payoff plan. Ethan's blood ran cold. "This was no accident," he whispered. "They planned everything." He pressed play on the cassette. A woman's fragile voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it. Vanessa wants my husband's wealth. She said my daughter would be erased. Please, whoever finds this, protect Lila. She's innocent." The tape ended in static. Lila sat, frozen eyes wide. Ethan reached out and wrapped his arms around her trembling shoulders. "You don't have to be scared anymore," he said quietly. "Your mother made sure the truth would find its way back." Victor swallowed hard, his voice thick. "What will you do now, sir?" Ethan looked down at Lila, then out through the frosted window. "Bring them to justice," he said, "for her and for every child who was ever thrown away. News travels fast, especially when people smell scandal." By the next morning, Ethan Reed's mansion was surrounded by flashing cameras and cold microphones. Headlines blared across the city: "Millionaire CEO. Accused of kidnapping young girl. Mystery child found in businessman's home." Vanessa had struck back. Inside the house, curtains were drawn tight. The once peaceful living room now glowed with the ghostly light of television screens. Lila sat on the couch, knees tucked to her chest, watching her own blurred photo flash on the news. Each time the anchor said abducted, she flinched. Ethan muted the TV, his jaw tense. "Don't look at that," he said gently. Lila's eyes filled with tears. "It's true, isn't it? I shouldn't have come here. Now they're saying bad things about you because of me." He knelt in front of her, resting one hand on her trembling shoulder. "Lila," he said quietly, "you didn't do anything wrong, but I made you sad. Everyone's angry because you helped me." Her voice broke. "It's just like before. People get hurt when I stay." For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. He remembered the hospital again, the same helplessness, the same sound of a small voice blaming itself for a world's cruelty. He swallowed hard, forcing his voice steady. "Listen to me," he said. "You didn't ruin my life, Lila. You reminded me what it means to live." The words hung in the air, simple, raw, and unplanned. Lila stared at him, unsure whether to cry or smile. Ethan's eyes softened. "When I lost my daughter, I stopped believing in tomorrow. Then I found you in the cold and the snow, and suddenly tomorrow didn't feel so far away." Victor entered quietly, holding his phone. "Sir, it's worse," he said. "They've leaked your home address. Reporters are at the gate." Ethan stood, determination replacing despair. "Then it's time they see the truth." Later that evening, Ethan walked out to the gate with Lila's small hand in his. Flashes erupted, questions shouted through the cold air. "Mr. Reed, is it true you abducted her? Who is this girl?" He didn't answer. Instead, he held up a folder, the same one from the safety deposit box. "This," he said firmly, "is the truth her mother left behind." Then he handed it to the police officer at the front line. "I'm placing it in your custody. Inside is proof of forgery abuse and a woman's murder covered by greed." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras froze. Ethan turned back toward the house, shielding Lila from the noise. "You've done enough for one night, sweetheart," he murmured. She looked up, voice trembling. "Will they take you away?" He smiled faintly. "They might try. But truth has longer legs than lies." That night, as the media buzzed and the storm of accusation raged, Ethan sat by the fire, watching Lila sleep on the couch. He could lose everything, his company, his name, but none of it mattered anymore. For the first time in 5 years, he wasn't afraid of the morning. 2 weeks later, the storm had moved from the sky into the courtroom. Outside the city courthouse, snow melted into grey puddles beneath a line of news vans. Inside, every seat was filled. Reporters whispered. Cameras clicked. On the far side of the room sat Ethan Reed, his expression calm, but his eyes unflinching. Beside him, little Lila Carter held his hand, dressed in a light blue sweater that made her look smaller than she already was. Across the aisle sat Vanessa Carter, immaculate as always, her silk suit flawless, her posture regal, her heart black as ink. Next to her, Robert Carter avoided every gaze, his guilt a visible weight. Their lawyer, Luis Ortega, shuffled papers like a man playing with fire. Judge Morrison entered, his gravelly voice echoing, "Court is now in session." The prosecutor rose first. "Your Honor, this case concerns the neglect and endangerment of a minor, Lila Carter, by her guardians, Vanessa and Robert Carter. Evidence presented today will demonstrate a deliberate attempt to erase the child's existence for financial gain." Vanessa's lips curved into a thin smile. She leaned toward Ortega and whispered, Let's see him prove it. When Ethan took the stand, the room went still. He adjusted the microphone, his hands steady. I didn't come here to protect my reputation, he began. I came here because a child was left to die in the snow, because the woman who gave her life tried to protect her even in death. He opened the folder and displayed the documents one by one, insurance transfers, forged signatures, a will rewritten in Vanessa's favor. Then he placed the USB on the projector. The screen lit up with photos Amelia Carter bruised but brave, holding her daughter close. Gasps rippled through the audience. Vanessa's painted smile cracked slightly. Ethan continued, voice low, but cutting Lila's mother left these as proof. She knew what was coming. She wanted her daughter to have the home, not the hands that destroyed it. Then softly he pressed play on the cassette recording. Amelia's trembling voice filled the courtroom. If you're hearing this, it means I didn't make it. My husband's new wife wants my child gone. Please, don't let her disappear. The sound ended. Silence fell so deep it could be heard breathing. Vanessa slammed her hand on the table. This is outrageous. I fake tape. A forged story. The judge turned to her sharply. Mrs. Carter, sit down. But the prosecutor had more. He called Victor Hayes, Ethan's driver of 10 years, to the stand. Mr. Hayes, where were you the night of December 18th? Victor nodded toward Lila. Driving Mr. Reed. We found her behind a grocery store covered in snow. She was shaking so bad, I thought she wouldn't make it. And did you hear what she said? Victor swallowed. She was crying for her mum. And for God. Murmurs spread through the courtroom. Vanessa's lawyer rose to object, but it was too late. Ethan turned to Robert. Tell them, Robert. Tell them the truth. Robert's head sank into his hands. For a moment, everyone thought he'd stay silent. Then came the whisper, she's right. I let it happen. Vanessa told me if I didn't, she'd destroy everything. I'm sorry, Lila. Vanessa's eyes widened. You spineless fool, she hissed. The bailiff stepped forward as the courtroom erupted. Judge Morrison slammed the gavel. Order, order in this court. When silence returned, the judge leaned forward, voice cold as steel. I've seen greed. I've seen cruelty. But abandoning a child in the snow, that's evil. He turned toward Lila. You, young lady, are the bravest soul in this room. Then he faced Vanessa. And you, Mrs. Carter, you'll answer for every bruise, every lie, every night she spent freezing while you slept in silk. The gavel struck once more. Custody of Lila Carter is hereby granted to Mr. Ethan Reed, effective immediately. Criminal charges against Vanessa Carter and Luis Ortega will proceed to trial. Lila turned to Ethan, tears spilling down her cheeks. Does this mean I can stay? He smiled, eyes glistening. You were never leaving, sweetheart. As they walked out of the courtroom, the snow had begun to fall again, but this time it didn't feel like winter. It felt like home. The house no longer felt empty. For the first time in years, laughter echoed through the hallways, soft and unsteady, like a melody rediscovering its tune. Lila ran down the corridor, her tiny socks sliding on the polished floor, chasing the smell of pancakes drifting from the kitchen. Ethan stood by the stove, apron crooked, flipping a pancake that landed nowhere near the pan. Lila giggled. You're not very good at this, she said, grinning. He chuckled. You caught me. I'm a terrible chef. Victor passed by with a tray of fruit, muttering with mock seriousness. "Sir, perhaps we should call for professional help before the smoke alarm does." Lila's laughter filled the room again, light, clear, alive. Ethan turned toward her, flour dusting his sleeve, and smiled in a way he hadn't in half a decade. For once, the silence inside the mansion wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. After breakfast, they went outside. Snow still covered the garden, but the sun had broken through, scattering silver light across the trees. Lila looked around in wonder. "It's pretty," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "It's better when you're not alone to see it." They built a small snowman together. Lila placed a red scarf around its neck and pressed her locket gently against its chest for a moment, like giving thanks. Ethan watched quietly. Then she turned to him. "Mommy said when people smile from heaven, it makes the snow sparkle." He looked up. The light caught his eyes. "Then I guess she's smiling today." Lila reached for his hand. "Does this mean you're my family now?" He knelt beside her, eyes, soft voice, steady. "Family isn't about who you're born to," he said. "It's about who stays to keep you warm." She leaned forward and hugged him. He froze for a second, then wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. The snow fell gently around them. The world hushed in quiet grace. Later that evening, as twilight settled, the mansion's windows glowed golden from the fire inside. Lila's small figure could be seen dancing through the hallway shadows, her laughter echoing faintly into the night. And Ethan, watching from the doorway, whispered to himself, "Home. It finally feels like home." Night fell softly over the city, the kind of quiet night that feels like forgiveness. Snow drifted past the windows in slow, weightless flakes, each one catching the glow of the house lights. Lila sat in her new room, cross-legged on the bed, her silver locket resting against her chest. The walls were pale blue, the same color her mother once painted their old home. A small lamp shaped like a moon glowed beside her, casting gentle circles of light on the walls. Ethan stood at the doorway, watching. She looked up at him and smiled sleepily. "Do you think Mommy can see me from heaven?" she asked. He nodded. "I think she never stopped." Lila yawned, curling under the blanket. Ethan walked over, tucking the edge around her shoulders the way he used to do for his own daughter. As he reached for the lamp, Lila caught his wrist gently. "Can we leave the light on just for tonight?" He smiled. "Of course." She touched the locket and whispered almost to herself, "No more dark." Ethan froze. Those were the same words his daughter once said before the monitors went silent. His throat tightened, but this time the memory didn't crush him, it warmed him. He leaned down, pressed a kiss to Lila's forehead, and whispered back, "No more dark, sweetheart." Outside, snow continued to fall, silver and endless, but through the window, one warm light burned steady, a promise against the cold, a quiet reminder that kindness still exists, even in the cruelest storm. The camera lingers on the soft glow of Lila's lamp. Outside, snow falls like feathers against the window, and inside, a single light stays on through the night. Because somewhere, someone like Lila is still waiting for that light. And somewhere, someone like Ethan is still deciding to reach out. In the moment of hurt like Lila, or in the decision to rise again like Ethan. Have you ever witnessed an injustice exposed or a kind hand reaching out at just the right time? If there was a Lila near you today, what small thing could you do to ease her fear? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, because even a single line from you could be the light that guides someone who feels lost tonight. And I also want to check in with you. How have you been lately? Did this story bring a lump to your throat or stir something deep inside? If your day feels a little heavy, I hope this ending gives you a touch of warmth to hold on to. Our channel will always be here to listen to heal, to remind you that kindness still exists even in the cruelest storm. So please leave a comment and don't forget to share this video so more hearts can hear stories like this. Stories that mend, stories that remind us that at the end of the road, the light is always waiting.